Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Great to be together. I've noticed something over the course of the years that I've been a disciple. When I first was introduced to our fellowship, the International Churches of Christ, I was struck by how openly people from our church fellowship would tell each other something that seemed like only mothers tell their children, or only the closest of relatives would ever say to each other. They would say the words, "I love you," to one another. And I thought, well, that's a little weird, right? I understood that it was biblical, but it didn't stop me from feeling like that's weird, because even though I know it's probably right, I've never seen it in this context before, where two people who go to church together would express to each other, "I love you," even though they're not blood related or whatever. And then I noticed something else. I noticed that there are some of us who have a hard time saying that. And I would like to credit it, I would like to think positively and credit it to the fact that they want to have integrity. They don't want to just say the words "I love you" if they don't really mean the words "I love you." And so sometimes, you've probably experienced this, you'll tell somebody, "I love you," and they'll go, "Okay, thanks," right? Or maybe you're the one who says "okay, thanks" when somebody has told you that they love you. And then there's this middle ground that I've noticed over the course of time. People won't quite say "I love you," but they'll say something close like "love ya," right? Not "I love you," but just kind of a "love ya," "appreciate you," or some variation that lets you know that they feel something in return, but they're just not quite comfortable going all the way out with, "Man, I love you too." Right? The notion of love and whether it is genuine or sincere is going to be the very first thing that we read together today as we turn our Bibles to Romans chapter 12. The title of today's message is Christian Hospitality. This is the final installment in our little three-part series here on hospitality and its importance. I know we've spoken of it the last 2 weeks in a row. You may feel like those were insightful, and maybe you even feel like you've got it all figured out by now. Probably not, right? None of us quite have it all figured out. We could always hear a little bit more. Those first two lessons that we heard were just a look at the book of Acts and how hospitality showed up in the early church. Today's going to be more of a practical, hey, what does the Bible say in various places about hospitality? But check this out in verse 9 of Romans chapter 12. It says, "Love must be sincere." It doesn't say love could be sincere or should be sincere. It uses the emphatic. It says that our love must be sincere. Specifically, in context here, our love for one another, it's important that it is sincere. Love must be sincere, which means it's got to be real. It's got to be genuine. There's the knowledge that we have that we should love one another. And that's important knowledge, because without the knowledge, we don't even set a goal for ourselves to get there. But once we understand that, hey, this is what God expects of me, this is what the Holy Spirit has inspired and put into the Bible, the expectation is that I love sincerely my brothers and sisters. There are certain individuals it's really easy to love, right? Their personality is just kind of fun, or it fits your personality well. You find yourself naturally drawn to those individuals. And so it's pretty easy to sincerely love people like that. It's a lot harder to sincerely love people who are in a totally different mindset than you are most days, who maybe have a different way of looking at things. Maybe they eat their banana from the bottom and you eat yours from the top, right? Maybe culturally, you've just grown up in different places. Maybe there's a generation gap and you still remember what it's like to make calls from a payphone, and they don't know what a payphone is. These things exist within our fellowship. And so it's harder to have sincere love when you don't see the easy or natural connections. But I'll put before you that those are the most beautiful relationships that I see over the course of time in the kingdom. The ones that you would have never thought would have existed. When you see people become close friends with one another, develop a genuine love for each other, even though they're so different, and you would have never thought, wow, that those two would be tight friends. As we've looked at, and we'll continue to look at, love is a big part of hospitality. If we have a hard time even making a few moments of fellowship with somebody who doesn't have a lot in common with us, what are the chances we're ever going to invite them over to our house? What are the chances we're going to go out of our way to write them a note or a card? Pretty low, right? Which is why the scriptures tell us so straightforwardly here in the front part of verse 9 that love must be sincere. Because, when love is sincere, I think all manner of things become possible in a fellowship and in relationships. It goes on in verse 9. It says, hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in, there it is again, love. Honor one another above yourselves. Part of hospitality is honoring somebody. It's setting out this thing before them, this dessert or this meal or this game night or this barbecue or this, sandwich in the parking lot, whatever it might be. It's saying, I honor you. I've prepared this in honor of you. Verse 11, never be lacking in zeal or excitement, right? But keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope. Be patient in affliction. Be faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. These words are being written to the church in Rome, and Paul is trying, the main context really, or the main subject matter of the book. It's been debated by some theologians, but I'm convinced more every time that I've read it, that this is really a letter to a church about how to get along when you come from different cultural backgrounds. The church in Rome was largely a Gentile church because the Jews had been expelled from Rome by the emperor and weren't allowed to return for nearly a decade. So the early, infant church there in Rome, which was started by people who had a Jewish background, was left in the hands of people who didn't have a Jewish background, and it grew and flourished in a very Gentile type of setting and was led by people who had Gentile upbringings. And so a lot of the Jewish mindset and culture really went missing from the church in Rome. But then once that edict expired and the Jews were allowed to return to Rome and they returned to the church, it really was a different church than maybe they had left years prior. And these two cultures were in conflict with each other. And Paul was much of the letter is spent trying to help them to see that one is not greater than the other. Jew is not greater than Gentile. Gentile is not greater than Jew. It's all about Jesus and how we are reborn in him and on a level playing field through Christ. And we are part of this one body together. And he even says those very words in the earlier part of chapter 12 here. And he's trying to teach them that even in their differences, that it's important that they, verse 13, share with the Lord's people who are in need and practice hospitality. And we saw there in the book of Acts how much God worked through hospitality to move the church and grow it. Verse 14, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. In our hospitality, whether it's with the community at large or whether it's within our own fellowship, it can be a challenge to invite certain people over to our home. If our home is, our little domain, set up just the way we like it, catering to a background or to a culture that we have come from. The idea of having someone in our home who is messy, who has a lot of kids who are sticky and loud or whatever, might feel like, I just don't know if I can handle all that. Okay, so maybe you can't, but what can you do, right? Rather than doing nothing. Because it's important that gaps don't grow within our fellowship where certain people, without being told that they don't belong here, get the impression that they don't belong here because they don't fit necessarily into a certain style or certain background. And the way to make sure that those gaps don't grow amongst us is for those who are, as verse 16 puts it, who are willing to associate with people of low position or a position different than their own. Those gaps get filled in when people say, hey, look, I'm not going to allow this difference of our incomes to stop me from having these people over to my house and honor them and treat them the way I would treat my VIP from work or my neighbors who are really, Ivy hates this word, so I'm using it just for fun, who are really sharp, right? Ivy's my wife if you're watching and you don't know who that is. But anyway, these gaps, if we don't do anything to address them, they grow on their own within our fellowship. We've got to go out of our way to make sure that we are hospitable and welcoming toward people who are in a different position in life than our own. Verse 17, and by the way, at the end of verse 16, it gives you the key to how to do that. It says, do not be conceited. In other words, what does it mean to be conceited? It means you think you're pretty great. I'm pretty accomplished. I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty attractive. I'm pretty wealthy, or I'm of this class, right? And it says, don't do that. Don't be conceited. And if you're not conceited, it's a lot easier to just recognize that this person from this different age group or people group or what have you, they're just a person like you are. You're not better than they are. They're not better than you. And you can love them and you can be hospitable and you can honor one another. Okay, verse 17, do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends upon you, live at peace with everyone. You can't make other people accept you, but as far as it depends upon you, you can make yourself acceptable, and you can make yourself one who is accepting of others. And if you don't get that reciprocal feeling, verse 19 is for you. It says, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. Well, think of that. Get your head around that for a second, right? This is quoting Proverbs chapter 25. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not overcome, or rather, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. This is talking about enemies, adversaries. It's not talking about your neighbor across the street who's not your enemy, just isn't someone that you've gotten to know yet. So if we can do this for our enemies, how much more can we do this for our neighbor who's just been kind of quiet? How much more can we do this for one another who, maybe you've been a part of the church for a couple years and this other person has just never come around to embrace you or fellowship with you or get to know you all that well. You might feel something about that. If we can feed the enemy and quench the thirst of the enemy, how much more can we reach across the congregation to somebody who we just haven't gotten to know yet and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to feed this person. I'm going to love this person. I'm going to sincerely love this person. See, we've got a beautiful thing all in common here within the Church of Christ. We love Jesus. all of us love the Lord. That's an incredible thing to have in common. And we love his church very much. And we want to see it flourish. We want to see it grow. We want to see it meet more needs. We would love to see more disciples in more places. We all agree on that. That's a lot of common ground that we have to share that can be the basis for some great conversation and some great relationships. And we would be very different in any other manner of ways, and that's okay because we've got so much important in common. Amen? This morning, I'd like to, I probably should have made some notes here about when I needed to click to which slide, so let's just click to the next one and see what it says. All right. The basis for Christian hospitality. That sounds good. All right, so let's go to the previous one. It should say, what is Christian hospitality? Is that, do I have a slide titled that? Okay, awesome. All right, so in Romans 13, really, if we just take another quick peek at that, where it says, share with the Lord's people who are in need, practice hospitality. Okay, great. What is hospitality? What does that mean for a Christian? Well, succinctly, in part, it is distributing to the needs of other people. Just meeting the basic needs. Basic needs like food, shelter, water, encouragement, love, clothing, supplies, materials. Sharing with the saints in their needs is a great place to start. But in 1 Peter chapter 4, if you'll go there, in 1 Peter chapter 4, we read a little bit more about hospitality and Christian hospitality, what it might mean. Where in verse 8, by the way, the men, we're about to start a series in our midweeks next week that will carry us throughout the rest of the year. We're going to pick apart line by line Peter's two epistles here in 1 Peter and in 2 Peter. And I'm excited. We've got a preaching and teaching group that's been in training for 3 months now, that's been meeting on Wednesday mornings, learning about the ins and outs of how to preach and how to teach. And those guys are going to be the ones leading all of these lessons on Wednesday nights throughout the rest of the year. I'm excited about it. But anyway, here in verse 8 of 1 Peter chapter 4, it says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Being hospitable is loving one another in spite of the potential to grumble, right? We've all got things we could grumble about. Hospitality isn't reserved just for those who we've got no qualms with. Hospitality is loving one another without grumbling. Using our gifts, it says, to do something. What does it say? To serve others. Verse 10, right? Use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Okay, let's pick that out a little bit. Faithful stewards. What's a steward? It's somebody who manages, who takes care of something that doesn't necessarily belong to them. It belongs to someone else. They're just the manager or the steward of it. Okay? Stewards of what? Stewards of God's grace. What's grace? Grace is essentially just God's favor. It's God's, his affection is a form of his favor, right? His forgiveness is a form of his favor. His blessings that he sprinkles into your life, your good health, or your American citizenship, or your beautiful mind, or your long, luscious hair, whatever it might be. These are forms of God's favor or kindness to you. So we take these favors, these things that we've been given by God, and we're stewards of them, and we use them in their various forms to do something, to, back it up a bit in verse 10, to serve others. These great blessings we've been given have been given to us for a purpose. For us to share in hospitality with others. Because hospitality is a powerful force for advancing the kingdom of God. Hebrews chapter 13, would you go there with me, please? Hebrews chapter 13, and starting in verse 1, Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. For by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Continue to remember those in prison, as if you were together with them in prison, and those who are mistreated, as if you yourselves were suffering. Christian hospitality is distributing to the needs of saints. It's giving without grumbling, but it's also entertaining or showing hospitality to flat out strangers. It says, by doing so, some have unwittingly entertained angels. The Holman Christian Standard Bible here says, don't neglect to show hospitality. Don't leave it out. Don't forget that part. Consider how you might appreciate it yourself and how you might do that thing that you appreciate for others. What might you be encouraged by? All right, envision it and then try to replicate it for others. If one of your neighbors came up to your house and knocked on your door and said, hi, we live a couple doors down, and we just wanted to share a bottle of wine with you. And so here you go. We put a little ribbon on it and attached a little note and just wanted to introduce ourselves and say, hey, I know we're all going through some times and a bottle of wine might be nice. And then what would you think? You would think those are the coolest neighbors you've got in your neighborhood. You would remember their names. You would remember their kindness. And even if that wasn't a life-giving or life-changing conversation that you had in that moment, your attitude toward them would grow. It would be different. It would change, right? How many of you have had a neighbor do that for you? It's not real common. Sometimes it happens, but it's not real common. Which is all the more reason why when we would do it as Christians, it would stand out as something truly remarkable, God-glorifying, and different. Practice that kind of hospitality. Practically, hospitality is making others feel at home in some way. It's been said that some folks make you feel at home, while other folks make you wish that you were at home. Right? You want to be of the type that makes people feel at ease or feel at home. At work, that could mean bringing in a box of donuts and laying them on the break room table. At the gym that you work out at, it could be something as simple as, a hello, or offering something, someone a fresh, clean, cold bottle of water after a workout. It can take a lot of forms in a lot of places. In 1977, there was an opera singer named John Charles Thomas. And he used to travel a lot as he was, doing the opera circuit. I guess there's an opera circuit. Or at least there was in the late 70s. And at age 66, he wrote a letter. How many of you remember Dear Abby? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. And probably some people, 5. And probably some people there in the Zoom meeting. So Dear Abby was this columnist who you would, write letters to. Dear Abby, I'm having this problem. What's your advice? Right? But this opera singer, John Charles Thomas, who traveled a lot, he wrote a letter to Dear Abby. And he said, I'm completing the second year of a 3-year survey on hospitality or the lack of it in churches. And he went on to explain that in the last several years, while traveling, he had visited 190 plus congregations, over 190 different congregations as he traveled. And in those 190 plus congregations, he tells Dear Abby, he was only spoken to by someone else from that church on one occasion. And on that one occasion, it was to tell him to please move his feet so that they could get through. Other than that, he went in and out of churches 190 times without anyone saying a word. Now, part of this, John Thomas has to take responsibility for, right? He could have said hello and tried to initiate some conversation. But you would think that somewhere mathematically, out of 190 different church visits, that someone would have come up and said hi. And it just didn't happen. You know, that's telling about how uncommon a hospitable attitude has become in our communities and even in our congregations. What is Christian hospitality? It is us trying to make others feel at home in Christ. It is us trying to make others feel at home in Christ. And it's a process. You don't have to, in the first 5 minutes of your hospitality time, have them studying the Bible, right? Or have them in a deep conversation about their salvation. Hospitality may just be gradually building a friendship and a relationship that gets to a level where they begin to share their heart and their soul. And once those opportunities present themselves, then you can start to share the love of Christ. But hospitality is us trying to make others feel at home in Christ eventually. Amen? Maybe even right away. All right, so what's the basis for Christian hospitality? Next slide. Yeah? Yes. Okay. Remember, hospitality, if you want to take a little deeper dive into it, the Greek word for it is philoxenia. It's Philoxenia. Philoxenia. And it's from an old word, philoxenos, which essentially means philo, which is like brotherly love. It's the root of the city Philadelphia. It's one of the forms of love. Philos is love for, brotherly love for someone. And xenia is someone who is an alien or a stranger. So philoxenia is love for strangers or aliens. That is the word that is translated oftentimes as hospitality. Philoxenia. We put it in English oftentimes in our translations of Scripture as hospitality. The context of Christian hospitality should always be, this is really simple, easy to remember, okay? The reason for it, the rationale for it is love, okay? That is the basis of Christian hospitality. The reason we do it is love. Love for God, love for people. And because we love God, we decide to love the people that He loves. Right? That love for God overflows and makes us want to share with others. Kind of how we can't wait to show off a new gadget that we've purchased, or can't wait to share. Maybe you've done some renovation in your backyard and then you want to have a barbecue to show everybody this new deck that you've got or this new pool that you've had put in. Once you've received this great blessing, you kind of want to share it, right? And so it is in our love with God. We want to share it with other people. How is your love for hospitality or your heart for hospitality? What is it that fuels your love for or your heart for hospitality? What is the basis of your hospitality? I put before you that it should be love. Love for God and love for other people. Back there in 1 Peter in chapter 4, where we were just reading a bit ago, in verse 9 it said, offer hospitality to each other without grumbling. Offering hospitality to each other out of deep and fervent love is what will allow us to do it without complaining about having to do it. It's what will fuel us to get past the hard parts of it. All right, next slide. How do Christians demonstrate hospitality? How do Christians practice hospitality? I got 3 opens for you. They need an open heart, they need an open hand, and they need an open home. If the basis for Christian hospitality is love, then when we open our hearts to others, we begin to care about them. And because we care, eventually the hosting or the hospitality stuff just kind of comes naturally. Opening our heart allows us to extend ourselves beyond what we would normally be expected to do. Isn't it nice when someone does something for you that you didn't expect? Yesterday at the place we live at the Lake Park Crossing luxury apartments. They're very nice. And anyway, they wanted to do something for veterans on Memorial Day this year. But because of COVID-19, they weren't able to have this parade that they wanted to have. So here we are now, months later, and these people who wanted to honor veterans still had it on their heart. They put a program together yesterday. They put together 4 separate programs so they could keep the crowd really small and socially distanced. And so yesterday, my wife and I and our neighbor downstairs, Melvin, we went to the 12 o'clock slot of this Memorial Day presentation on October 3rd. And they baked us cookies, and they sang us songs, and they made us a certificate, and they asked us to tell our stories about our service in the military. And it was incredibly kind. And these people don't know us. They don't know who we are. They don't know really anything about us. But I was moved. I was really moved by it. Because they didn't have to do any of it. You see? And when we love people, that's the kind of thing that we do. We do the thing that's unexpected. We do the thing that we don't have to do. You didn't have to buy my lunch. You didn't have to invite me over. You didn't have to get me that gift card. You didn't have to write me that note. You didn't have to drop this off at my house. Of course. But I wanted to. Because my heart is open to loving you. That's how Christians demonstrate hospitality. By doing the unexpected. Hospitality is allowing God to break through the narrowness of our own fears and our neighbors' fears and open up our hearts. It is learning to care about people in a way that is sincere. 1 John chapter 3, verses 17 and 18 says, "But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him," it asks the question, how does the love of God live within him? What it tells us is that if we love our brother, we're going to meet that need. Little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but with deed and in truth. One of the many things that make people respond so well to hospitality is that hospitality is an action. It's more than a word. We've all heard, hey, let's get together sometime, right? We've heard that. Oh, it would be great if sometime, yeah, we could meet up. And then sort of nothing happens. I'll call you sometime. That's a lot different than, hey, what are you doing this afternoon? You want to come over to my house for some lasagna? Hey, I would love to take you out for a cup of coffee. Where's your favorite spot? Can we get together this week and have a cup? Those are actions. Those are more than just, wandering possibilities that linger in the atmosphere. Open hearts allow us to do that. Open hands. When we open our hands, we reach out in acceptance of friendship. Think of the difference that exists between being confronted with a clenched fist and being offered an open hand. It's a world of difference. It's still a hand, but one is threatening, and the other says, I come in peace. I hold nothing in my hand against you. In medieval time, the story goes that the extension of an open hand, how the handshake began. This is not really provable, but it sounds cool, so I'm going to share it. In medieval time, the extension of an open right hand signified to someone else that I don't have anything here to hurt you with. I have no sword. I have no dagger. It said, I will not attempt to hurt you. I accept you. That was they say, the origins of the handshake. We need to accept people as they are because we have been accepted as we are. You should write that down. We need to accept people as they are because we've been accepted as we are. Haven't we? By God. He took us in our mess. It's hard for some, I think. Seeing someone whose life is in chaos might remind you of the chaos that you've recently escaped, and you don't want to go back to that drama. So you kind of want to avoid people in that boat for a time. I can get that. I understand it. But remember, Ephesians 4:32 tells us that we need to love others and forgive others as God has loved and forgiven us. People get so much out of our willingness to open up our hand to them, to open up our life to them, even in their chaos. Matter of fact, sometimes when someone's drowning, that's the life-saving thing. Is someone who's sane, someone whose life is not a mess, entering in with an open hand and saying, hey, I'll be your friend. And they're like, oh God, thank God. Everyone I know is crazy, right? Except for Pat. This Pat lady is amazing, right? I'm so glad that God brought her into my life. This lady is sane, right? We can often underestimate how our lives and what God has allowed our lives to become can be such a balm to the world around us, which is drowning in chaos. We can be a refuge where God can introduce himself. Hospitality makes that possible if we'll open our hand. Amen? We need open hands that are willing to give to and meet the needs of others. Luke chapter 16, verse 9, one of the oddest passages, I think, that I came across when I was a young Christian. If you go there, I don't know if you've ever read this before. I thought it was so poignant. And I don't know, I just thought it was neat. But, you know, sometimes you hear certain things and it's like, wow, that was pretty honest. A little abruptly honest. I can't believe he said that out loud or she said that out loud. I felt like this when I read this as a young Christian in Luke chapter 16 and verse 9. Jesus is in the midst here of telling a parable of the shrewd manager. And in verse 9 he says, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves so that when it's gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. He said, look, use your money to make friends. Yeah, buy friends. Take the treasure that you have and use it to make friends. And when your life is gone, or rather so that when it is gone, your wealth is gone, because eventually it goes away, what you'll have might not be money anymore, but you'll be welcomed by many others. You'll be welcomed even into eternal dwellings. God will say, hey, you were a good friend maker. I'll take care of you. It's a pretty amazing passage, really, right? Opening our hand allows us to make more friends. It just does. And that's not such a bad thing. All right. And then we want to open our homes. While it comes more naturally for some to open their homes, we are all called to open our homes or to be hospitable. We're all called to love. It might be harder for some. Some of us, you know, we've been hurt. We've been burned in past relationships. We've even been burned in past church settings or church relationships. I know some friends here who are part of our fellowship who have been part of churches previous to their time here in the Fox Valley Church that fell apart, that argued with each other and divided into pieces. I have a friend who's sitting here amongst us today whose dad got essentially dismissed or let go by a church in a way that really was hurtful to him, right? And those things, they leave an effect. They can definitely make us approach a fellowship in a much more guarded way. That's understandable. And so when you hear about, oh, let's just love each other, let's just throw our arms around each other, let's have open hearts and open hands and open homes, that sounds great, preacher guy, but look, I've been burned before, and it's not as easy as you're making it sound. While others haven't had those experiences. Others may go, I don't get it. I don't get why people aren't just a lot more loving with each other, a lot more like, hey, come on over. And then you want to pile on top of that each of us are different. There's something like, according to the Myers-Briggs personality test or whatever, there are 16 different categories or types of people, right? Different personalities. And you got some who just love being around others and they get a tremendous amount of energy from being around other people. And then there are other human beings who have the exact opposite experience. They love people, but if they're going to be around a crowd, they're going to go need to take a nap later because it just sucks the life out of them to be around other human beings. There are some who are naturally outgoing, some who are naturally more introverted and just like to people watch. And guess what? They've all got a place in the body of Christ. And so for some, you'll hear a lesson on hospitality and you'll think, yeah, bring it on. Before this night is over, I'm going to try to have 4 different people into my house this week for a dinner. Or I'm going to host this big block party. And some people are already thinking of it in their heads because they love that kind of stuff. While other people are mulling over whether or not this is actually theologically sound. Right? And especially during a pandemic. It's not an accident that we're talking about it now. We're talking about it now because now more than ever, it is easy for us to close our hearts, to close our hands, and to close our homes. And I am not advocating that anyone be irresponsible. I am simply saying, let's try to be hospitable in the ways that we can, that make sense, that are safe, and that communicate love to others so that God can be introduced to them and they can feel at home in Christ. So don't be quick to judge your brother or your sister because they jump on hospitality at a different pace than you do. Okay, that's important. We are all called to be hospitable, though. So none of us get a free ticket out of this. If you're an introvert, or you come from a background where you have been burned in relationships, figure it out. Take your time. We're patient with each other. But at the end of the day, you've got to find out what you can do and how you can be hospitable toward others. There is a differentiation between hospitality, by the way, and entertaining. They're not the same thing. Entertaining says, hey, I want to impress you. Hospitality says, everything you see around you is a gift from my master. Christian hospitality is a gift from my master, and I want to share it with you. Those two things leave a different impression. Entertaining can declare, this home is mine, this empire is mine, look at what I have built with my hands, this is an expression of me and my personality, look and admire. And maybe even envy. Where hospitality is much more subtle, and it just says, what's mine is yours. I'm happy to share it with you. What God has given me, I like to give to you. Hospitality is more than inviting someone to dinner. It's opening up, it's welcoming, it's accepting, giving, sharing, loving, advocating, even, as Tony mentioned in the communion today, sacrificing. You might not have enough food to host someone for dinner. All right, that might mean a little smaller cut of beef for you, just so you can carve out one more spot at the table. That's okay. That's totally okay. Amen. So I would like to introduce to you the levels that I recommend here for practicing Christian hospitality. I think particularly in these moments, this could be a helpful thing to know kind of level 1, level 2, level 3 type of hospitality. At the end of the day, you're going to do what you do. I get that, right? But practically, it might help you to observe that there are stages of hospitality that it's okay to start with and then graduate further on as you feel compelled to by the Spirit or as you feel comfortable to. Stage one can be simple things like bringing someone a cup of coffee at work. It can be dropping a goodie bag on the neighbor's door, or inviting someone out on an outing together, like, hey, we can take a walk. We can meet at the park and take a walk. That's simple things that we can do, even in a pandemic. Level 2 would be something maybe a little bit more intensely involved, a little bit more personal. We could invite someone to a dessert, or to a cookout, or to a meal. Maybe out at a restaurant together. A little safer, you don't have to bring them into your home. That's something we could do, kind of level 2. And then level 3, if we're feeling spunky, if we feel comfortable with it, we feel like God's calling us to it, and the Spirit's compelling us to do it, that even now in this hour, we may decide that, you know what, I can prepare my house in such a way that I could actually have someone else over into a clean, safe environment, and we can make this happen. You know, when we have company, it might be a little hokey, but Keith and Amanda will tell you, as soon as you get in our door there at the bottom, we've got a little sign that says, okay, hand sanitize right here, right? We throw a couple mints down there on the table. They sanitize their hands. They take their shoes off at the top of the stairs. They hang their coats, right? And then when they come into the house, they see that we've rearranged our furniture, and the chairs are further apart than they were before. And we've kind of set the meal up so that we don't all have to sit, you know, face to face at a table together. We just had dinner together on Wednesday night, and we were able to stay, you know, at a safe distance from each other. I'm not saying that's right and whatever you're doing is wrong. I'm just using it as an example to say that there are possibilities, if you feel compelled, to be able to still have someone, even at this hour, into your home in a way that can be safe. And certainly, the greatest thing we can do to make people feel at home in Christ, which is Christian hospitality, is we can share our faith with them. You know, it's easier now, probably in many ways, to share it electronically because people have gotten so adept at electronics, figuring out how to click on a link and have it open up a worship service, how to email a link or text message someone a link. All of our Bible study series are textable to one another. You can get a short video link from our YouTube channel, and whether it's discipleship or the Word of God, the church, sin and salvation, repentance, all these things are in little 4 or 5 minute Bible study videos that you can text to your friend or to your neighbor. You can send them our sermons. You can send them a link to messages that they can hear. There are lots of ways that you can share God's word with people. I think it's the Bible app. Forgot who put it together. YouVersion. Yeah, you can text people devotional thoughts. You can text them Christian memes. You can text them all sorts of things. It's so easy now. You can always do that, even in a time like this. It's a great way to show hospitality. Amen? All right, so that's it for hospitality. Aren't you glad we're done? Yeah? You know everything there is to know now about being hospitable. So now all I can say is, you got to go put it into practice. Amen? I'm sure there's a lot more to know. Hopefully you know I was joking. Nobody laughed, so I wasn't sure. All right. We're going to move into our worship portion now. So I think that the folks who are meeting through the Zoom platform online, we bid you adieu. Tony and Jason have something lined up for you. And for those who are in attendance here at the building, we're going to go ahead and sing together from our songbooks.